How y'all doing? Donald back here again, and apologies. This is not a Go video again. I'm trying to batch record a bunch of those. Oh, I know Mocha, so that you all get like a kind of like an uninterrupted stream of them for at least maybe like 2 weeks. I have a couple recorded, but I want to get all of them recorded before I start playing them back out again. Uh, and you know how YouTube works, gotta put something out anyway. So I figured I have something I would like maybe to talk about, and maybe you all would find it interesting as well. Uh, this relates to a discussion I was having with another party that fell through. I'm going to speak in kind of some abstract and vague terms, so as to not actually disclose who it was. I was what this entity was that I was talking to. I will just say it was another YouTube channel. So let's break down what was going on. Uh, I was approached by a another YouTube channel, and I'm just gonna call them the other party at this point. And so the other party was interested in me having doing a guest video on their channel, and we were having a dialogue back and forth to discuss what kind of video I would do. You know was the possibility of me coming back on there. If the first one did well, all this stuff, and we settled on an idea, and they gave me indication as to say okay, all this sounds fine. You can go ahead and get started whenever you want to. But I wasn't going to start yet because I wasn't done with the conversation. Something I will say about this other party is their channel is larger than mine, large enough that it is monetized, large enough that the monetization probably isn't insignificant. So there's this reality about this arrangement that isn't really being talked about, which is if I give them a video to put on their channel, they monetarily benefit from it. Okay, that's just a reality. That's just how YouTube works. And so now we're kind of in this angle of we need to look at this value proposition here, right? We are two parties, negotiation and exchange of value. This is what's happening. And as it stands right now, the conversation is basically centering around the other party is imparting onto me exposure. That's basically what it is, exposure, as a form of value. Whereas I'm imparting onto them content that not only generates additional traffic for their channel, but also generates actually monetarily benefits them. And before I started, I said I sent them one last message, this other party, and I'm actually going to show my message. It's not the actual email. I just copied the body of my email into like a text file, and we're going to look over it because I want you all to look over it with me, and because after I sent this message, they were done with the conversation. I mean, done as in it did not move forward. And I'm basically just kind of want to do some self-reflection here to see, where is some of the fault here? I'm sure some of the fault maybe is on me. Possibly it's on some of them. We'll talk about that. But before I show you the email, or the body of my email, I'll basically break down what it was. And it was, I basically said, okay, before I start, I need to ask about something. Is the possibility of some kind of monetary compensation on the table? I'm not demanding to be paid. I'm just saying, hey, before I'm not really done with this conversation yet. We need to have the money conversation. Because we're having a negotiation. This is an exchange of value. I know you monetarily benefit from this content that I would provide you. So I think it's sensible to have this type of conversation. And I admit in my email that the amount of value that they may perhaps be providing me is something I can't comprehend. And I kind of meant that in two different ways, and I'll get into that as I go through the message. And then the last part is me essentially saying, even though I'm admitting that I may not quite comprehend the amount of value they may be giving me, I'm also not big on trading my time for exposure. And I will explain that as well. So let's go over to the email, the body of the email I sent. That is called the boo boo. So you'll see, if you're listening and instead of watching, I will read it out to you. Oh, sorry. I wanted to inquire about one thing. Is the possibility of some form of monetary compensation on the table? I understand the sheer amount of exposure that comes from this carries more value than I can probably comprehend. At the same time, part of me isn't a big fan of trading my time for exposure. Okay, that was the message I sent them. Their response basically was, and I quote, "Sorry, there isn't. Thanks anyway." And that tone seemed to me indicate that the conversation was now done. And I sent a few follow-up emails to, just to try to, see if there was something to salvage, and I have not heard back. So I'm assuming this discussion is done. So let's break this down and see maybe where I misspoke, maybe where I could have worded stuff better, maybe where I probably should have shut my damn mouth until the conversation got to that point, which is maybe what I think maybe part of the issue may have been. So I don't think there's anything to really talk about in the first part. It's just saying, hey, before I start, there's still I'm not done with the conversation, right? Let's keep talking about this one. And then it's just simply me asking, can we have a money discussion? Now, there's a couple different ways we can take this in terms of how it was perceived. It could be the other party was immediately turned off by the fact that I brought up the money conversation. I don't think that's what it was, but it's a possibility. I don't think the way I worded that question was off-putting either, because I'm not demanding anything. I'm simply inquiring whether that that conversation is on the table, because it's I kind of have to. This whole arrangement was kind of oriented where it's more like you have to play ball in our court the way we want to do it. So that's why I'm kind of inquiring whether this is foul play or not, I guess is the way to put it. And then we get to, I will say upon self-reflection, I think maybe I should have just sent this, and the rest of this shit I should have just left off in self-reflection. I think anything else I put here, I probably should have just saved to, in case the conversation did actually get to that point. But at the same time, I kind of wanted I had like a thought, and I kind of wanted to finish the thought in the email, basically. And you'll see, I understand the sheer amount of exposure that comes from this carries more value than I can probably comprehend. And I said I meant that in two ways. So what are the two ways? One way was, it was kind of on a sense of flattery, right? I'm acknowledging that the other party has a larger audience than me, and my content appearing on this other party's channel would possibly give to me some value. We'll get to the kind of ambiguity about that in the next part. And then the second part is, when I say I can't comprehend, I mean that kind of in the literal sense. Which ties into the last part, saying I'm not a fan of trading my time for exposure. The problem with trading time for exposure is, while yes, exposure is a perfectly valid form of value that can be transferred between two parties, I would say it's probably one of the more unstable forms of value that can be traded, because it's very hit or miss. It depends on the audience of the other person whose reach you're leveraging. It may just depend. There's probably so many things to take into account there that you may leverage the reach of one party, and get really great conversion from, people who are exposed to you on, their content or whatever, and then they convert over to being, your audience as well. But then you may get exposure from another party that's just as big, if not bigger, and get like shit for conversion. Like you barely get anything out at all. So this is why I'm not a huge fan of doing this. To me, trading time for exposure is almost kind of like gambling. Sometimes it pays off really well. Sometimes sometimes the house wins and you get shit. Okay. So yeah, that's basically how this went. I think upon self-reflection, as I said, I probably should have just stopped this after this message, after me just posing the question. The latter part of this I could have, elaborated on later if the conversation got to that point. And there's a couple of reasons that I think maybe they terminated the discussion. There is the possibility, as I said, that me inquiring about the money talk turned them off. That seems very immature and very silly to me, unless they had malintent, as in like, well, I basically don't want to give you money. I just want to make money off of it. I don't know that. I'm playing with scenarios. That I was never really informed as to why the conversation was terminated. So only thing I can do is speculate. And then there's the possibility that because I, brought up the kind of the analyzing the amount of value that that comes from me being exposed on the other party's channel, is maybe makes it seem like, well, he's just doing it so he can get exposure, which, I mean, no, I'm not. I don't make the videos that I make right now just for exposure. I mean, I enjoy helping people learn things. Once I got that first affirmation from somebody going, "Hey man, you really helped me figure out how to do this thing," I was like, well, now I know the stuff I do helps people, so why would I not do it anymore? I want to keep doing it. So, there can be multiple reasons you want to, work with another party. Just because some of them are kind of framed from a more, I don't know how you want to put it, kind of more a business viewpoint, from things like, exchange of value, exposure, which is kind of more of a, marketing, I guess like a marketing, sales, advertising kind of thing. Doesn't mean that's like the only reason I'm doing it. I'm someone trying to grow a personal brand. I'm trying to help people online, right? So, and when you view it from that lens, it makes sense to me to view things from multiple angles. Like, yes, I want to help this other party and their audience by helping them learn something, but also, it makes sense if both parties feel like they're getting something, that's worthwhile out of the exchange. And to do that, you have to evaluate what the value is that's being exchanged. Whether if there's no monetary compensation being given to say to me, then I have to make the distinction: is the amount of value that I'm being given by this other party simply through exposure, does it satisfy me? Do I think it's worth it? And to be frank, I still would have contemplated it, because I don't think it was a small amount of exposure. I still think it may have even still been worth it, just for this whole sake of, again, helping people. But maybe I shouldn't have anyway. There may be other consequences about that I'm not really considering. I am still kind of new to this whole entrepreneurial, brand building, I guess, kind of viewpoints on things. So there may be other ways of looking at this that I'm not really familiar with yet. So yeah, that's all I had for this video. this whole incident actually gave me an idea for another like business related video I actually am probably going to do soon, which is to basically talk about the concept of value and the discussion and exchange. So if you're possibly interested in hearing about that, stay tuned. It'll probably come around in the next few days. That's all I got for y'all today. Y'all come on back now, and I'll see you next time.